There was a woman who never planned to be a mother. She loved her sister deeply, but her own life was quiet, simple and small. She had dreams of traveling far, of chasing the kind of peace that only solitude brings, but life has a way of changing our plans in a single heartbeat. One cold evening the phone rang, a voice on the other end trembling as it spoke. There has been an accident. Her sister and brother-in-law were gone in a moment, leaving behind two small children, one barely old enough to understand the word goodbye and one still too young to even ask why. She sat in silence, staring at the wall, listening to the sound of her own heartbeat. She had no answers, only fear. She wasn't ready for this, she wasn't strong enough for this. But when she walked into that hospital room and saw those two little faces looking up at her, lost and afraid, something inside her shifted. She knelt down, opened her arms and said, "Come here babies, you're safe now." And in that moment she became something she never thought she could be. The days that followed were hard, the nights even harder. She learned how to braid hair, how to pack lunches, how to read bedtime stories through tears. She didn't think they could see she missed her sister every single day, and sometimes when the little girl laughed she could almost hear her sister's voice echoing in the room. People told her she was brave, but she didn't feel brave. She felt broken, tired and scared. But love has a way of building strength out of sorrow, and as the years passed the children grew, and so did she. She found joy in small moments, in laughter around the dinner table, in late night talks, in tiny arms wrapped around her neck. On her sister's birthday every year they would light a candle together. They would sit quietly and she would tell them stories about the woman who gave them life, the woman who still watched over them. She told them love doesn't disappear, it just changes shape, and sometimes it lives on in the hearts of those left behind. And though the world saw her as an aunt raising her sister's children, she knew the truth. She was raising her sister's love, carrying it forward every single day. Years passed like pages turning in a quiet book. The children grew taller, their laughter filled the house, and for a while it almost felt like the world had healed. But time has a way of stirring old questions, especially in young hearts. One evening the boy, now nearly grown, asked her, "Why didn't our mother come back?" She froze for a moment. The world seemed to stop. The same pain she had buried deep years ago began to rise. She sat beside him on the porch where the sky was painted gold with sunset, and she said, "Your mother didn't leave because she wanted to. She left because life took her too soon, but I promise you she never stopped loving you, not for a single breath." The boy looked down, tears forming in his eyes, and whispered, "Then why do I still feel angry?" She took his hand and said, "Because love and anger are sometimes the same thing. When you miss someone so much it hurts, you start to blame the world for taking them away, but that anger, my boy, is just love with nowhere to go." That night when the house was quiet she went into her room and looked at the old photo on the nightstand, her and her sister laughing, arms around each other in the sun. She whispered, "I'm doing my best. I hope you can see that. I hope you're proud." In the morning she found a letter under her door. It was from the little girl, now almost a young woman. It said, "I used to think you were just my aunt, but I see now you are the one who gave us a life. You are the reason we still believe in love. Thank you for being our mother, even when you didn't have to be." She sat there holding that letter close to her heart, tears falling, but not from sadness, from something deeper, something like peace. She realized that love isn't about who we lose, it's about who we keep loving through the loss. And though she had never asked for this life, she now knew it was exactly the one she was meant to live. The years drifted by quietly like soft rain on an old roof. The children became adults, they built lives of their own, but no matter how far they went they always came back to that little house, the one filled with love and the scent of memories. The boy became a teacher, gentle and patient with his students just like she had been with him, and the girl became a nurse, caring for others the way her aunt had once cared for her. They both carried her lessons like invisible wings, guiding them through life. One summer evening they gathered again under the same porch light where she had once told them stories. The woman's hair had turned silver, her hands softer, her steps slower. The boy smiled and said, "Do you remember how you used to say love never dies?" She nodded, and he said, "You were right, Mom," and that was the first time he ever called her that. For a long moment she couldn't speak, her heart felt too full. She looked up at the stars and whispered thank you to her sister somewhere above them. She could almost hear her sister's laughter carried by the wind like a promise kept. A few months later the children surprised her. They took her to the town square where a small garden had been built, a quiet space filled with flowers and a single plaque that read, "In loving memory of two sisters bound by love and the children they raised together." She stood there silently, tears falling softly, but she was smiling because in that moment she realized the circle was complete. Her sister's children were now her children, and the love that began with tragedy had grown into something beautiful, something eternal. When she looked at them she didn't see the pain anymore. She saw her sister's eyes, her laughter, her strength living on in them, and she knew she had done exactly what she was meant to do. She had kept her sister's light alive. Years had rolled by like gentle waves, and the woman had grown old, her steps slower, her voice softer, but her heart still carried the same quiet strength that had held a family together when the world had fallen apart. She spent her mornings sitting by the window watching the sunlight dance through the curtains, listening to the laughter of her Grandchildren echoing in the yard. The house that once felt too big was now filled again with love. The same walls that had once known sorrow now held joy and new beginnings. Sometimes when she looked at those children running barefoot in the grass, she would close her eyes and see her sister's face smiling through them. One evening her grown children sat beside her and said, "Mom, we want to tell your story." They wanted the world to know about the woman who gave up her own life to raise two children who were not her own but became hers in every way. They said, "Your love taught us how to keep living when everything seems lost." She smiled softly and said, "You don't need to tell my story. My story is already alive in you. Every time you choose kindness, every time you forgive, every time you love someone who cannot repay you, that's my story living again." When she passed away, it was peaceful like the closing of a gentle song. The town gathered to honor her. They said she was proof that family is not just blood, it is love chosen every single day. Her children placed her photo beside her sister's in the same frame, two women who never stopped holding each other through the years. And on quiet nights when the wind moves through that little garden, you can almost hear the faint sound of laughter and the whisper of two sisters saying, "We did it, we kept the light alive." And that is how her story ends, not in sadness but in grace, because some love stories do not end at all, they simply continue in every heart that remembers what love can do.